All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Raymond Rome. Some people know me as Right Motherfucking Rome. Big booty bitches. I'll explain that later. This is the first part of my podcast that I'm going to be starting. It's going to be called War Stories. It's also going to have some motivation in it, some of my motivational speeches. I started War Stories as that a lot of people that go through treatment, if they're in group and they're sharing and they start to tell a war story, like their past life, it can be triggering for other people. So a lot of facilitators will cut them off. So, which is understandable, not the right time to do that. So that's why I started this podcast, was so that people would be able to tell their story. Because I think that's a part of healing with your mental health as well. Not just going through, detox, residential, PHP and IOP program and doing everything like that. I think that there also is, you have to get somewhat into your mind and into your heart about like how you grew up, what happened, because everybody has a story to tell, right? So, I will have some guests on here that will tell their story, and I'll have like at least 3 or 4 questions for them, but it usually gets pretty exciting. I've done this before. I let it go for a little bit, but a lot of people have been egging me on to do it again. But I want to throw, like I said, a little bit of some motivational speeches in there that I'm working on. Motivation is a big key. I think it is a huge thing for the spirit. So I'm a big mind, body, spirit person. I think that you have to have a very good balance between your mind, body, and spirit. We'll get into that a little bit later. But let me start off by kind of introducing myself to you so you know who I am and what I've been through before we get on to why I'm doing this. So, I was born January 20th, 1979. I was 70s baby. But grew up through the 80s. I grew up through the 90s. The 90s were my teenage years. So I grew up in a family, my mother and father, they were married. My father was an engineer at a place called Kelsey Hayes. And he did very well. He started out pretty much from the bottom and went to like pretty much CEO of that place. He was doing very well. So, our family had good income. We weren't rich, but like we were upper middle class, My mom, she worked very hard. She, sometimes had 2 jobs when her and dad were trying to make it before us, and they worked very hard for that. They were both very good parents. They took us camping, square dancing, just to church, and we went to like church events on the weekends, and we did all that when I was younger, But I was only 1 year old when I broke my first bone, and we didn't really, I was almost 2, but I kind of fell down the steps, and it shouldn't have been something that would break a bone. So I broke my leg, and, got it all casted up and stuff, and I remember telling my mom, I broke my egg, and she said, your leg. I remember that, actually, and she reminded me of it later, too. She's like, you used to say you broke your eggy. That's what she said. So, after that, like, went through life all the way up to about, I think I was, what was I, 13? 14? I was 13 when I broke my femur. So I had broke a lot of bones, like maybe 2 a year. Yeah, I'd have a broken bone and I'd break another one. So I found out that I have osteogenesis imperfecta, which is a brittle bone disease. There's different types. Might have seemed it would be glass or something like that. I'm not that bad. I'm a stage below that. So little bit of my lisp is because my teeth are bad, because it has to do with bone density. So it's nothing that you can take a calcium pill or anything like that for. Um, it's something that you can build muscle and help, put a protective shield around them, and to know that you have it, and to be able to, a little bit more like, I can't do that. Like, I wouldn't want to go play volleyball, like sand volleyball, and like break an ankle or something. I wouldn't want to jump off the back of a pickup truck, because I know I'd break something. So it's just about that. Well, I went through that through my whole childhood, breaking bones, always in the cast. I was always in the cast or something. And, I don't know, it's, we did a lot of good things as a family. And my sister, I have a sister, she's 2 years older than me. She'll say, 2 years and 2 months, Ray. But I don't talk to her anymore. She hates my guts. But, yeah, so I love her, though. There was a lot that happened in my life. It might have been like we had a little bit of money, but and it seemed like it was okay, but my dad and my mom would fight a lot, screaming at, well, my mom wouldn't scream at my dad, but my dad would get pissed off. So, we always thought that dad was hitting mom and stuff, because we'd just run and hide, and we just hear boom, 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 but that was him hitting the wall and stuff. I found that out later in life. So, I don't know, just pretty much whatever. So we grew up through my teenage years, pretty much the normal stuff, getting Nintendo was awesome. Getting the Super Nintendo was cool. Listening to the radio, like the top 10 or the top 20. Getting up in the morning before going to school and watching MTV. We did all that kind of stuff, And, it was cool until it got a little hectic when I broke my femur. So, my buddy had gotten a Mongoose bike, an extra light for his birthday, and we were all into jumping ramps and stuff, because BMX was huge back then, And I pulled it, it was light, so it went backwards on me, and when I went to go land, my knee and my hip went out of place, and my femur shattered into 12 pieces of bone. Well, the crazy thing is that hurt. It was so bad. The crazy thing is that at that time when I broke my femur, my dad and my mom were breaking up and ending their marriage in the basement of our house. And it got interrupted by a guy that pulled over, seen me, and went and run over to my dad's house in his pickup truck and was like, your son's hurt, So that was kind of strange, but things got a little bit weird after that, because, we kept the house with the pool for a little bit, so we had some parties, and I started, meeting new people, and, I liked the popular people. We were around more of the higher upper class, so I decided, start hanging around these guys. Because I only had one friend, his name was Brant, and we would go to church stuff and all that kind of stuff, but he was a bigger guy, weight-wise, and, I was husky too, but that's just because I hung out with him and stuff, I'm not gonna blame it on him, but you know what I mean, we were friends, so, we'd drink 2 liters of pop and play Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, that's what we did for our weekends. But, as I grew out of that, he didn't really come into it too much, and I started hanging out with a different crowd. I remember the first time, I used to drive around with my parents, and me and my sister were in the back, and we'd be like, oh, look at them cool kids smoking cigarettes, And, I remember having my first cigarette. And it gave me a freaking head rush. I remember getting my first pack of Marlboro Reds, because they really didn't ID as much back then. You could get them. They'd sell them to you. And knowing that you're underage, but they would sell them to you. I remember giving my first pack, and I think I was chain smoking, around these guys and thinking I was smart. And then I was like, woo, I started getting sick, almost like put too much tobacco in your mouth or something. I had to go outside and puke. So I ended up like going home and stuff. But I remember that. I remember the taste of the cigarettes back then when I first did it. So I don't know. Hanging out with that, I was starting to get around people. We would cruise up and down town. So I'm from Fremont, Ohio, and we had a cruise on State Street, and we go from Burger King down to this Rainbow Lanes that was on the other side of town, on the east side of town. West side of town was Burger King. So we'd roll through Burger King, and then we'd go down, we'd turn around Rainbow Lanes. So that was like the hot points to turn around, it was like the show-off points. So I'm getting a little bit older at that time, but there was a lot of things that happened in between that though too. So how I got to there was like when I broke my femur, I was going to like junior high and stuff, and we had a 2-floor thing, and I was in a wheelchair. I mean, I missed my whole 7th grade. I was at home, I was homeschooled. So when I went back, I only went to 7th grade for like 2 weeks, and then I went back in 8th grade, and it was just kind of I could get the popular kids to take me out of class early and take some time in the hallway and stuff. So I started hanging out with everybody, and the area of town that we were living in at 4th Street was down by 3rd, 2nd, 1st and Ohio Avenue. We were like all just chilling down there, but that was my crew. I mean, that's who I grew up. That's who I walked to school with. That's who I, like that elementary with and stuff like that. We were down at Krogan Elementary. So I just knew those guys, man. I had paper out down there and all that stuff. So it was no big deal, but like, I don't know, fast forward to, so, I became a little bit popular, like everybody knew who I was, and I hung out with everybody. Didn't matter if you were a jock, a hood, it doesn't matter, Mexicano, hung out with everybody. So it turned into, like, I liked this girl, and I ended up going over to my friend's house that was her cousin that lived right next door to her. So we're hanging out, and they bring out some alcohol, and I had never drank alcohol before, so I'm like, all right, and it was like liquor, so I got thrashed that night and got sick and everything, but I don't know why I wanted to do it the next weekend, but like it was just I think it was like some other influences, like I have to show, I felt like I had to show up. I liked this girl, and anybody ever felt like that? You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I mean, I did it from, I wouldn't say peer pressure. I would say it was my pressure on myself. It was like, well, I can either back off and look like a total wussy and go back to just, but no, I went. So we had a good time that night, and I remember, so you got to remember I was that young. That was back in like 1995, 96. I remember somebody pulling out marijuana, and it was the girl that I liked's brother, and we're sitting in the back deck, and he packs it, and it comes my way, and it's one of those little metal bowls, like the ones you screw together and stuff, with a screen in it, old school bowl. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. So I smashed it, and I was like, whoa, and it kicked my butt, but I liked it. It was like being with the cool kids. All of a sudden I had this crew of people to run with, My sister was going down a whole nother thing. She was like into pastels and Peter Gabriel. My mom was trying to struggle to keep the house together, and I was just like free to roam. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then I ended up getting into a band called Kermit that I formed. I was the guitarist. I had Heather as the bassist, Patrick as the drummer, and Chris was our lead singer. And we ended up doing very well. There's a place called Uptown Coffee House. We used to perform there. It was a chill spot for like the teenagers. That's where I got into acid and LSD, mescaline. I started learning that I could make money off of like my broken bones. I had Percocets that I never used because I didn't like the way they made me feel from all my broken bones. So I could sell those to get marijuana or to get a couple of hits of LSD. and party with my friends, go in their bedroom and turn some, black lights on and stuff. So that was kind of just how that started. I don't know, I don't know, I just don't think that maybe I liked myself at that time. So I wanted other people to like me. So as other people started to like me, I was like, dude, let's up this, that was more of my addiction. Like, how many people, how popular can I get, Can I be class president? Can I be the biggest drug dealer in school? Just all that stuff. Watching Fast Times at Ridgemont High and all, I'm just, wow, I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be Ferris Bueller. So, I went on like that for a little while. It got out of control. The band did really good for a while, but then Chris quit. Me and him got in a fight, and I don't know what that was all about, but that went south, and we kind of gave up the whole band thing and started getting into DJing, scratching, things like that. Started going to raves up in Detroit. Never went to Cleveland, no, man. We went down to Columbus, Dayton, Indianapolis. We used to go all over those places and go to the raves. And it was the old school raves back in the day. Like, it ain't like the raves now. Like, the raves back in the day, you used to get a pamphlet from the raves the weekend before that would tell you a number to call an hour before the event started so it wouldn't get raided. Which I've been at those too that have been raided. I was in one in Detroit that got raided. That was really freaky. And I was way underage. I was only 16, almost 17. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I get arrested, my mom's going to kill me. But I got away. Ended up running out the door. And the cops couldn't catch me, so I hid by the car. But that's another story for another day. But, that's just how I started getting. And then it started getting to be a little bit, allegedly, a little bit more of like into the drug game. So that just kind of like, I learned later that there's a thing called arrested development, and it's kind of like where everybody else is kind of growing up. I was getting into a whole different phase of my life. Now, I did get married, and she's amazing. She's still a really cool chick. We're divorced now, and I had 2 daughters. Later in life, I had a glass company, and I shut that down. I thought I wanted the glass company, and I did well at it, but it was way too much stress. So I shut that down and decided to come up to Toledo, and that was in 2014, or 2009, I'm sorry. And we came up, and I started going to college. I went to Toledo University of Toledo, and Rockets, go Rockets. Went to take a Health and Human Services bachelor's degree, and that took me 5 years. I went through a divorce in the middle of that, custody battle, everything. I still graduated in 2014 with magna cum laude, top 20 of my class, working, taking care of the kids, dealing with the divorce. It was a lot. And, I turned to alcohol and drugs for it. And it just kind of stuck with me. I remember walking into a physiology exam so high on cocaine, sweating. I was the first one to finish the exam, and I still got 100% on it. Truth. And then walked out of there and went right back to where I was doing cocaine at. That was wild. That was in my senior year. But, so things were starting to get pretty bad at that time. Well, I don't know, fast forward, I went through a lot of stuff, bad stuff, good stuff, bad stuff, all the way till, roll it up to June of 2022. So June of 2022 was a pretty bad month. Somebody had, I don't know, it had been part of my crew that I was rolling with, had to have said something about me, or I don't know. But anyway, allegedly, there could have been the DEA looking after me. Could have been a possibility. Which I don't know why, because I would, but whatever. It was what it was. And I got a little bit scared, I was getting paranoid and stuff. So I decided to look for help. And they were like, well, why don't you go to like a detox center or something? Because I was like, I can't just stop like doing what I'm doing. I just have to like go somewhere. And they're like, well, come here. So I told my stepmom, my dad, like, I'm gonna go up to Midwest Detox and do their 37-day program and just like get away from this a little bit. Sorry about that. So get away from that a little bit. And I went. Just making sure that doesn't happen again. So I went up there and it was 7 days of horrible withdrawal from alcohol and cocaine. So cocaine wasn't too bad. It's more the seclusion and the not having like it in my hands, like taking a couple of pills instead of, because I'm not a pill guy. And I'm not saying anything about pill people. I'm just not. I'm more of like, I was drinking my sorrows away, So it's like, wow, all this stuff flooding in my head. So anyway, I think I'm a punk. I think I'm a gangster. And I finished the 7 days. They take me to the residential center, which is co-ed. And they walk me around and they show me the facility. And I tell them, nah, give me my stuff, man. Because I was like, I'm better than these people. That was my ego. My ego was like, I'm better than these people. You ain't better than nobody. I know that now, but. So I left. I lied. I lied to my dad. I lied to my stepmom. Said, yeah, insurance isn't going to cover it. And blah, 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 blah. And, manipulated them into, coming up and pick me up from there. They gave me my stuff. I walked down to the gas station. I grabbed 3 tall boys and sat under a pine tree in the shade because it was hot, waiting for them to come pick me up. She didn't come up. My dad did. Pops came and jumped in. I told him, man, blah, blah, blah. I gave him all this shit. So anyway, we go home, and we're there for a little bit, and I hear my stepmom call, and I hear my pops talking to her, and she's like, he's lying. They called me. They said he left AMA and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And AMA is against medical advice. So, she was pissed off. She's like, I want you out of the house. I want you out of the house. And I thought, man, the way she was putting it sounded like she wanted me out of the house right the fuck now. So I was like, fuck you then, I already had most of my stuff packed up. So I'm like, all right. So I started loading up. My pops is like, where you going? Where you going? I'm like, I'm leaving, dude. Fuck this shit. Fuck everybody. Fuck all the world, dude. And so he's like, so I stop and I get whatever I'm going to do down in Columbus. I was going to go down to El Dorado Racing and Casino in Columbus, Ohio, on my way to West Virginia. So I stop at El Dorado and meet up with a couple of my friends, man. We have a freaking awesome night. I'm hitting on freaking tables, insane. So we're just in the bathroom and out of the bathroom, in the bathroom, out of the bathroom, just mashing this out. It was all free. So, and we're hitting on the table, so it was just crazy, man. So anyways, like 3:30 in the morning or something, and I'm like, all right, everybody's backing out, and I'm like, I'm not getting a hotel room, I'm just going to go sleep in the car, I wake up the cops and ambulances and stuff, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And the cop was knocking on my window, and I'm like, what? And there's open beer cans, and there's cocaine in the car. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like, what's going on? He's like, So I claimed suicide, you know. So I was hoping not to get arrested or anything like that. And I didn't. They took me to the hospital. They took me to Columbus, and they put me like in their main emergency room type, um, like what do you call that? Like a psych ward type thing, you know. Kept messing with the cop that was outside of my room all freaking day until they were letting me go. I'm like, let me go. They're like, why don't you go to blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not going to treatment. Give me my shit. Get me out of here. Messing with the cop, messing with the cop. So it just got to the point where why I tell you that is because when they let me go and gave me my stuff, my phone was like 4%. And I had my charger and everything in my Adidas bag. They let me take my Adidas bag out of my Honda when they got me. That was kind of weird. But they let me take it. And I was like, dude, can I charge my phone like up here? They're like, get out of here. I'm like, oh man. They kicked me right out in the street. 100 degrees, sun burning down, downtown Columbus. Have you ever seen the movie, Dude, Where's My Car? That's what I was like. I'm like, and I'm dressed in like casino clothes. I'm like, how am I going to get to my car? It's probably freeway to freeway to freeway from here. Like, it's not something you could just walk to, you know? So anyway, long story short, I ended up walking 10 miles the wrong way. And when I walked 10 miles the wrong way, I figured it out. By then I was parched. Yeah, I needed some water, man. I ended up I tried calling a couple of my family members, but I ended up calling my mom. So I called my mom, I talked to her about that. She was pissed off. She said I could use the family card to get a couple waters, but no beer. Guess what I bought? Beer. So I'm sitting on between 18th and 19th on North 4th in Columbus. It's kind of the college district, you know, so it's not a bad place. I'm just sitting on the little grassy hill across from a pool billiard place and a little corner store. She's like, stay there. Don't leave. You know, my mom never swears either, and she's like, don't you fucking move. We're going to have a fucking talk when I get there. And I'm like, yes, Mom. You know. So she's on her way down and everything. She had called me and said it was going to be like an hour, 20 minutes. I said, that's fine. I'll wait here. And then 20 minutes later, she calls me, so I'm thinking, oh, good, she's an hour away. And then she's like, I'm leaving now. I'm like, oh, my gosh. That's how much my ego and my selfishness was, you know what I mean? Like, oh, my gosh, she's just leaving now? I mean, she, you know, whatever. We'll get into that later, but... So she's on her way down to get me and everything like that. And actually, she had called me and said she left. About 40 minutes later, I get a phone call from her, and I'm like, hello? And it's some guy. And he's like, is this Raymond? And I'm like, yeah? And he's like, hey, this is, I can't remember his name, but I wouldn't say it anyway, but he's like, Mom's been in a really bad car accident, man. My wife is trying to help her out right now, and she's a nurse, but I'm going to tell you right now, man, it does not look good. It doesn't look good at all, man. Like, I don't think this is going to work out. And I'm like, what? And I dropped my phone. I remember dropping my phone. I was like, what? I was like, I remember saying it was on the ground, and I go, she was coming to get me. So, like, I pick it up, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to call my sister. So I try calling my sister. She doesn't answer because she hates my guts already. I text her. I said, you need to call me, man. Mom's in an accident. So, boom, she calls me, you know, and I'm like, you need to call Mom's phone right now. She's been in an accident. Some guy's with her. Blah, blah, blah. She's like, what the hell? And then she hangs up, and that was it. It went radio silence. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm trying to call everybody. Everyone in my family I'm trying to call. Nobody's answering me. The only one person that did answer me was my brother-in-law. I used to kick it with back in those days I was talking about with the band and all that. Then he said he didn't really know much about what was going on right now. But that I should not go there because everybody was really pissed at me. So I was like, okay. So I don't know if she was going to get life flight or something from Ashland County and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, man, I need to head back up to, I was down in Columbus. I'm like, oh, so I got a cab with the card. I got a cab and I went to El Dorado to go get my car. I jumped in my car. It was still there in the parking lot. I'm like, thank you. So I jump in the car and I'm taking off back up to Fremont and over to my pop's house. And I get a phone call from my sister. And she goes, are you driving? And I said, yeah. She goes, pull over. I was like, what? And she's like, she's gone. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, Mom's gone. I'm like, fuck. And we cried for a little bit, and then she screamed some obscenities at me and hung up on me. That set me into a, whew, I was already having a problem with coping skills. That really got me. So I was like, whew, I remember driving 80, 85 miles an hour with an open container down the road, man, just being an idiot. And, like right after my mom died, right when my mom died. And, I don't know, I didn't know. There was so many things going through my head, I was in a panic. But I ended up not going to my dad's. I ended up going back up to Midwest Detox. So I go up there, it's probably, by the time I get up there, it's probably about 2, maybe 2 in the morning. And I get out and I go up there and I'm crying and stuff. They're like, Ray, what's going on? What are you back for? What's going on? I was like, my mom died. She blah, 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 blah. She got in a bad car accident. Like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trashed. Excuse me. So they call the ambulance and the cops show up. Well, I got the windows down playing Too Short, with an open container in the car. The cops come walking up. They get me for open container. They're going to be arresting me. I'm like, you going to arrest me or not? It just was a horrible evening. So I ended up getting arrested that night, too. So hours after my mom died, I ended up getting arrested. Instead of them taking me to jail, though, they charged me, and they let my dad come pick me up again. So he came all the way up to Mommy, picked me up, took me home, and all in silence. Because you got to remember, he just lost his ex-wife, the mother to his children. And then he has to come pick me up from the police station. I didn't say a word to him. Nothing. That was rough. Funeral was rough. I was shunned by the family in my own church. I was told to sit away from them. I had to sit alone with just my daughter, my oldest daughter. It was just horrible. So I went down a bad rabbit hole for a while. Really bad. See, I ended up going through treatments and treatments again, you know what I mean? But going to treatment is not just the only thing to do. Okay, you have to actually take a mind, body, spirit, and you have to analyze for yourself. Where's my mind right now? How do I feel about my body? Seriously. Not, well, I'm fat, and it's okay to be fat when you really look in the mirror and you're like, I wish I looked like, you know what I mean? Or, I'm skinny and I wish I had a bigger butt, but everybody else says, you have a cute butt, but you don't think so. There's a mind-body connection right there. That we don't talk about. It's like, oh, thanks. Well, you're all alone. See, all alone is where you do a lot of the thinking. You can be all alone sitting in a room. You can be all alone sitting in a room full of people. But you can be all alone in your mind, too. Way deep in your mind. You sit around a whole bunch of people and be so deep in your mind that you're not even really listening or even, you're like in a bubble. So how do you break that bubble? How do you get this balance? So that mind, body, spirit has a balance. Simple answer to that is in one of my motivational speeches that I talk about, which is people, places, and things. Your fellowship. My mom used to always tell me about a church family. And I never really understood what she meant by church family. She said, church family is very important. They always have your back. I didn't understand what she meant by church family until she died. And everybody from St. Paul's Episcopal Church showed up to her funeral. That place was packed. Church family. I get it. And I had to think about that. No, she went through a divorce. Church stood up for her, was on her side, and should have been. I'm not going to tell you guys those circumstances yet, but yeah, they should have been on her side. Um, you know, there's a big correlation between mind, body, and spirit, and people, places, and things. So, let's take people, because we're talking about fellowship, right? So let's say you hang around bad people. Let's say you go to a bar, regular, you know what I mean? Like, you're a regular. You go every night. I mean, like, that's kind of like your life. You go to work and then you go to a bar. I've done that. So I'm not picking on anybody that does that. I'm trying to tell you that change that habit. Because the people that you surround yourself by are going to be the people that influence you. Now, that doesn't mean drastically change the people that you're hanging around. It means slowly introduce new people into your life. You're not going to be able to introduce new people in your life if you never break your routine and try something new. You're never going to do it. You could wish for it all you want. See, my spiritual awakening was nobody's going to come save you. Nobody ever was. You have to save yourself. If you want change in your life, if you want change in your lifestyle, if you want change in your character, you have to be the one that makes that change. But here's the problem that we all fall into. My father used to say, Pops used to always say to me, we like the pot that we shit on. I never really understood when I was a kid what that meant. We like the pot that we shit on. Yeah, it's like, I understand it now. Like, I don't want to use a porta-john if I don't have to. I don't want to have to stop at Speedway to take a shit. Unless I really have to. Like, I'll hold that till I get home because I'm comfortable with the pot that I shit on. So we don't like change. Nobody likes change. Doesn't matter what it is, right? Well, we're talking about people right now. We're going to get into the places and things in a minute. And this is going to be one of the discussions I'm going to have with, one of my guests, too. But I'm going to tell you my look. So people, it's very hard to change, but I started this off by telling you, I used to hang out with one guy, one friend. He used to play Sega Genesis, Nintendo, and then I started adding new people into my life, and look where my life went. Okay, but that was a slow thing. That happened from 16. I went to a party in 1996 that lasted 28 years, guys. It was a slow, crazy change to where I got to now. So for me to change from now, when I started this at 45, to get to a whole new place of new people, places, and things, but new people is going to be pick and choose the right people, because I picked the wrong people before. I wanted to control about how everybody liked me. If you didn't like me, I wanted to figure out why you didn't like me, and then I would try to change that. I would say, well, I need to be a chameleon. I got to change this so this person likes me. Because I didn't like anybody not liking me. I was like, why didn't you like me? Listen, I'm going to tell you one thing. When you love yourself, you won't care. See, I want people to like me, but if you don't like me, I don't care. Because I like me. Now, finally. So what people showed me that. Cut off a lot of people. Cut off a lot of good friends, A lot of bros and brothers and stuff. There's fireworks going off, so you might hear that. And I had to. It sucked. I mean, I still text them every, like on Christmas and stuff, but we don't go hang out. We don't talk on the phone anymore. We don't do any of that kind of stuff, man. They get it. Why? They know what I'm doing. They know what I'm trying to do. And they're proud of me for it. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to get in the way of it. They can do whatever they want to do, and I'll do whatever I want to do. But then I start putting myself around the right people, getting mentors. Some people go into AA or NA and they get a sponsor. Some people go into Smart Recovery or Dharma or something. They get like a mentor or somebody who guides them. Somebody that you look up to. And you say, wow, he's been through similar things in my life, and I can kind of relate with this guy, and he's older than me, and I want to get to where he's at, and I want to figure out how. But I don't want to instantly, because that's not going to happen You can't just have it instant. You can't pray to God and then God comes out and just gives it to you. Most of the time you pray to God for something, he gives you a challenge to get there. So, people. Surround yourself by better people. Everybody, well, I don't know if everybody knows this, but a lot of people in treatment know this. A lot of people just kind of on the streets, you know. Put yourself in a barbershop, you're probably going to get your hair cut. You know? So, if you feel, here's another thing. If you feel like you're the smartest one in the room, then you're hanging around the wrong people. Not saying you don't hang around those people, but you need to find some other people in your life that you add to your friend circle that are smarter than you, that you can learn. Because every day, there's some way to better your mind, body, and spirit. We're just talking about people right now. Those are fireworks going off. So let's just skip real quick to, because we'll get way into the podcast when I have my guests. Let's go to body. I mean, once you really think, like, are you really happy with your body? And if you are, that's great. That's awesome. You know, but there's always, I don't care if you're a supermodel. I know that, you know, there's always one little thing in, you know, in your body that you're like, I don't like that, you know? And it's like, why? Why do we not like that? Because we compare ourselves to other people, which is a very bad thing to do. Never compare yourself to somebody else because they're not you and you're not them. That's why I will never say, like, if I can do it, you can do it. Because that's not true. We're not the same people. We might be similar, might have the same ideas, but we did not grow up the same way. You had not been through what I've been through, and I haven't been through what you've been through. So I'm never going to say that. What I say to people is, you can do it. I have a motivational speech that's called, Your Life is Your Life. And I won't get into that right now, but body. I don't know. Body's a weird one. We'll get back into body in further discussions when I have some more podcasts, but we're going to finish off with talking about spirit, right? Spirit is not religious, okay? It can be. It can be spiritual. That's part of spirit. Spirit is really about how your mind and body are doing. Like how they're in sync with each other. You know, if you see somebody moping around, something's off with mind and body, if not both. You know, how's your day? You ever seen, oh gosh, what's that movie? Oh gosh, it's with the feelings. Inside Out. I can't remember what sadness when she's like, or Eeyore for the older people, you know, Eeyore back in the day. I'm okay. Like, no, you're not. You're moping around, you're depressed, you're not okay at all, man. Your spirit's way down. Like, what's bringing your spirit way down is your mind and your body. There's nothing other to spirit than how your mind and body are functioning together. That's what brings your spirit up. So once you start working on your mind, you start working on your body, your spirit's going to naturally come up. You're going to be walking around with a higher head. Hey, I'm eating good. I'm doing good with my mind, dude. You know, I'm working on things with my mental health. So let's go back to the people, places, things. Let's go to places. I said something about a bar, right? Well, how about places also are going to influence mind and body? It's going to also influence then your spiritual increase. So, like, what places you go to are important. Are you going to a bar and sitting at the bar drinking? Or maybe you shouldn't go to a bar at all. Maybe you should try new things. Go for it. Go. Do you like to walk? Put some headphones on, listen to music. Do you like music? Put on your favorite music. Take a few minutes, go do something. Do you like to go to the gym? That's great, because that's great for the mind and body. You come out of the gym, you feel a certain way. Yeah, people, places, right? Now, how about things, right? Things. Because things are just broad. Like things. Like hobbies. What do you like to do? I've seen gangsters sitting there doing diamond art in treatment when I was facilitating them. Doing, diamond art, the coloring, like all kinds, what do you like to write? Why don't you make some time for those kind of things? It's huge. So, people, places, things totally ties into mind, body, spirit. So when you ever find, okay, so let's say that you work at a place, right? You like what you do, but you don't like where you work at. So you say, okay, well, I'm comfortable with the pot that I shit on. No. No. If you're not happy there, go do what you love to do for work somewhere else where you're happy. Say, see you later. Go find somewhere else and just say bye-bye. People. If you don't like the people you're around, say, later, dude. I ain't hanging out with you. I took a whole year. A whole year. And more than a year. Almost 3 years. All by myself. Yeah, it was almost 3 years. I mean, there were some people in between on that stuff. I wasn't all alone in a room, but like I was in my own mind for like 3 years. And really trying to figure it out. The grief of my mom dying, coming to pick me up in Columbus was a hard one to get over. She was like my best friend. Mother-wise, she was just awesome. And I think I was hers too, because she could talk freely to me. Nobody really knew any of that side of it, because I didn't tell mom's business to the rest of the family. That's why I think she felt like it was cool to come talk to me all the time. But yeah, it's just crazy. But we're going to be getting to really good stuff, so if you want to be on War Stories, hit me up, send me a message. You can look me up on Facebook. You can message me on there. Raymond Rome. I'm in the gym. So you'll see my picture. Hit me up if you want to be on it. It's a new thing going on. I got a couple of people that already want to be on it. So last time I did this, it was really good. Really, really good. And I had a whole sheet of people that wanted to be on it. Everybody wants to tell their war story, right? Like a little bit about how you grew up, and then like I want to hear, because I didn't go into my whole war story. I'll get into that throughout the podcast and wow you, because that's why I'm doing a podcast. I didn't know. I might even write a book. They could do a mini series on me. It's been that crazy, but I think everybody kind of feels like that, right? So we want to tell our story sometimes. I always tell everybody it's going to be about 45 to an hour, and it usually goes about an hour and 20, and then we got to cut it down. So sometimes I don't even get to the other questions, we just go off, and I like that kind of thing too. So, well, thanks for listening, and again, it's called War Stories, and this is Raymond Rome. A lot of people know me as Ray motherfucking Rome. Big booty bitches. So, y'all have a good morning, afternoon, and evening.